Hello everybody, it's Miranda here with Create with Prima, and I have an advent calendar tutorial to share with y'all to get you in the holiday spirit. I'll be using the beautiful Sweet Peppermint collection, which is from Frank Garcia, and it is just so beautiful. It was released last year, and I will definitely be using it for all of my Christmas cards and all of my crafting. The color palette is amazing, so that is what I'm using. So I'm giving you a quick flip through of the pad really quickly here, and you'll see me use all of the coordinating embellishments, flowers, ephemera pieces, and chipboard. So right now I'm pulling out a few ornaments and just little odds and ends that I have in my stash that I'm going to be using. And primarily this advent calendar is going to be all envelopes, but I wanted to just change it up and have a few random little pieces in there. So I'm using like some wooden pieces I got at Michael's and just tracing around them to cut out later. Very easy to do, just tracing around all of my little antlers and everything, and then I'll fussy cut that out and adhere it to the wood. I wanted to say really quickly, my honey is out of town for about 3 to 4 months, so I made this advent calendar for him, and every day the envelopes have like a little love letter in them, or like if it's day 18, I would write 18 things I loved about him on it. Some of them have coordinating online videos, just different kinds of things I did to let him know he was loved every day and missed. And it was it was kind of like making a gigantic mini album. You know, there's some pictures in some of them, but it was really fun to do. So I wanted to share my take on it. That's why you're not seeing me put candy or anything like that in there for it, because it's not for a child, it's for my honey who's out of town. So right now I'm using the egg blue chalkboard paint, which I absolutely love. It's my favorite color blue, and I use it all of the time. And I went ahead and put some of the paper on just different little wooden pieces, and I'm kind of going around the edges on some of those with the blue paint. I do some with the snowflake paste, some with just the white gesso. Just kind of wanted to cover up that bare wooden surface, and that ornament is really thick and the wood was just not very pretty, so I went ahead and covered that as well. But this was it was my first time doing an advent calendar, and I really enjoyed the process. It was fun. It took a lot of time, but it makes a great little pick me up for someone, especially someone out of town, like working during the holidays, or just even at home for your significant other or your children. You could put little goodies in the envelope, so it was really fun. And if you do not have, you'll see me using the envelope We Are Memory Keepers punch board. If you don't have that, you can use regular envelopes and just, add strips of the Sweet Peppermint paper or a paper collection of your choice, or, just whatever you want to do. You can even use a regular envelope, gently take it apart and use that as a template. So I clear gessoed all of my pieces. I forgot to hit film on that, but I wanted you to know that everything is getting clear gessoed. I didn't go as mixed media on it as I thought I was going to, but I always clear gesso everything just to make sure it's ready to go in case I decide to get really grungy with it. So there's the punch board I was telling you about, and it's very easy to use. It's probably my favorite punch board that I own, and it makes envelopes very quickly, very efficiently. So I made about 25 of them at the beginning before I decided to use the other ones. And I had this pre-made, so I'm just showing you there how it works. But like I said, feel free to use regular envelopes or dissect one and use it as a template. So I clear gessoed all of my envelopes as well, and I just did it while the paper was flat like that before I folded it up and adhered it and let it dry. And it kind of curled my paper a little bit, just a tidbit, even when it dried, but that was kind of a good thing because it made it to where it was a little easier to fit the notes and stuff down inside of it. It kind of gave me extra room in there, so it was kind of nice. So there's all of my little envelopes before they're adhered. And I'm using the paper collection, like I said, the Sweet Peppermint, and that piece of paper right there in particular has 1 through 25, so it's perfect for an advent calendar. It has all of the numbers on there for you already, so I fussy cut all those out, some of them in the 6x6 paper and some of them in the 12x12. So here I'm just splattering some white gesso with a paintbrush. A toothbrush works better, but I couldn't find mine at the moment, so I just used the Finnabair paintbrushes. And I'm just splattering all over there randomly. And I have a snowflake that I got at Michael's. I got a bunch of the wooden Christmas pieces from there. At work, when I see new stuff come out, it's just too hard not to grab it. So, of course, I grabbed a bunch of them. And I love this snowflake. It's very pretty. So I'm just going to paint it with white gesso as well. And I'm not going to show you, of course, there's 25 days, and if I did all 25 of the envelopes and ornaments and stuff that I did, it would take forever. So I'm just showing you a few of them, but hopefully you can see in the end I kind of give a little flip through of all the ones I did. So I have a Finnabair stamp here, and this is just one of her older releases, just one of those little tiny, clear music note stamps. And I'm using StazOn just in case I decided to add more inks instead of a chalk edger. And I'm just stamping randomly on there just for some added interest. And I've had these mechanical since last year. They're the vintage snowflakes, and I didn't end up using them last year. And I was so happy to pull them out and see them sitting in my little basket, and they were perfect for this. So I'm just folding up my little envelope there, and if you can see what I'm talking about, it's a little bit curled, so it makes a nice pocket. If you were to do this for a child, you could add little goodies in there. So I'm using the glue sticks or the glue pens that come with the planners, the planner glue pens, and they are perfect for adhering my envelopes together. I absolutely love them. So that's what I'll be using to make all of my envelopes. So right there, I didn't want to show what I wrote particularly on there, but you can see that one's just getting one little note tucked in there. Now for every envelope, I did a wax seal on it because I just felt like it looked really pretty. So you get like the wax with the wicks in it, and you light the wick, and you just let it drop on there until enough drops. And then I'm using a real wax press, a little one I got at Michael's, but you can use even your Prima stamps I have used before. They are so fun. It's really fun to do that. So like I could have used a Christmas one, like a snowflake or something, but since I was doing so many, I just decided to go ahead and do that. So it just gives it a really nice touch. I really love the way that looks. I think it makes it look just so beautiful, that little wax seal on there. So I'm taking some adhesive and adding, that's going to be my 7th envelope. So I'm adding the number 7 there that I fussy cut out from the paper line. And I'm going to use 3D matte gel to adhere almost everything. Every now and then you'll see me use just a regular tacky glue. And there was no rhyme or reason for that. It was just what I saw and what was on hand. But anything that's heavy or I need to make sure it's going to stay, I always use 3D matte gel. So I just sprinkled some glass glitter, and that was it for that one. So on this one, I'm using the Carmine Red Color Bloom, and you can see there I was just trying to get little droplets out, which was working perfectly until the end, and I kind of got a little splatter there, but it's no big deal. Like, I'm going to cover that up with some flowers, and it's not a big deal at all. So those little wood pieces, they came, I think it's called like a mason jar kit. They're for labeling mason jars. They're little oval pieces of wood and round pieces of wood, and I just covered them with the paper in it. I love just the kind of dimension it gives. It's much more popped up than just putting that regularly on the envelope, so I loved that. So this is going to be number 19, and I'm just dabbing up the excess Color Bloom spray there so that it's nice and dry. And again, I'm going to adhere these using the glue pen for the planners. And I love that this paper's double-sided because it's pretty inside and out, so it's really nice. So I wanted to cover up that little streak down there at the bottom, so I broke out some of the beautiful coordinating sweet peppermint flowers that go with the collection. And since I had 25 of these, I needed it to not be super, super dimensional. Some of these ended up being very plain envelopes with just like a number stamped on it, or just one fussy cut piece, and then some of them are a little more dimensional, but I wanted to make sure I removed the centers, that little ball center part, just because that was going to take just a little bit too much room up, and I couldn't really afford any wiggle room if it was going to fit inside of that little tray that I ended up putting them in. So that's it for that one. That one's super easy, super simple, just very quick. And there's his little note tucked in there. This one, I decided to do some stenciling on a few of them. So I'm using the Snowflake Paste, which is so beautiful, and one of my favorite all-time stencils, which is the Tile Stencil. And it's just so pretty. I love it. So I'm just adding it all over this envelope, and I'm doing it before, it's put together, and then I'm going to let it dry before I glue the pieces together. So I'm splattering a little bit more of the white gesso on there. And then I'm also going to just kind of added water, and I'm just spritzing it and adding it here and there and letting it just kind of run and just giving it a really pretty whitewashed wintry effect. So once it's nice and dry, it'll look very pretty. Just kind of going on the edges there, just making it look extra snowy was kind of the effect I was going for. Okay, so for this envelope, I am doing the same thing with that music note stamp. I do break out some of the coordinating sweet peppermint stamps as well, but I also love this music note background stamp. So for this one, I am just going all over. And you can see this paper collection has something for everyone as far as the papers in it and the color scheme. This one's a little bit more traditional with, like, you know, the colors on it, the green, the red, the creams, and then you can also go very kind of like boho with the pinks and the very pretty teal blue. Really, any color scheme that you like for Christmas, this paper collection is going to have it for you. And that's what I love about it. So I'm adhering these little scraps of confetti die, cut pieces from the star confetti die, and I'm just adhering the negative pieces there on there with the planner glue pen. And I use the star inside, the stars that came out of the die on the inside of some of the envelopes so that it just kind of like exploded out as he opened it. So I have a star cut piece there. It's like a corkboard piece that I got at the store, and I added the sweet peppermint paper to it, and I'm just going to adhere it with some of the 3D matte gel. Just keeping with the star theme on that one. And then I'm going to add my little Santa piece to the center there. So it was really good to use both the 6x6 and the 12x12 for this because it kind of gave me options as far as sizes. Obviously the 12x12 Santa would not have fit on that little wooden piece, so the little 6x6 one was perfect. So that's number 16. Now for the ornament here, whenever I do one that's not an envelope, have a little writing on the back or, you know, something in it, I tell him it coordinates with the email he'll get that day or something like that. And I only did a few like this, but it was just kind of fun to spice it up. I didn't want it all to be envelopes. I just thought it looked much prettier sitting in the tray with a little bit of ornaments and some of the deer on there. So I'm adding a doily there and just a twig that I already adhered there with the 3D matte gel. Just some branches and stuff I got out in my yard, and I thought that one was very pretty. So I'm using it. I'm going to grab another one of those snowflake mechanicals, which are so pretty, and I'm going to use 3D matte gel. Anytime you're adhering metal, you're going to need a pretty good adhesive, so I usually go to 3D matte gel. 3D gloss gel, the heavy body gel, any of those will work, but I would say 3D matte gel is definitely my favorite. So I'm adding my flowers now, and you can see I typically just keep a little bit of matte gel on my finger so that I can just grab and just put it on there. And once this stuff dries, it is not going anywhere. It kind of will hold it in place pretty quickly. I'd say within like 30 seconds, it's going to kind of grab whatever you're placing down, as long as it's not too heavy, you know. But it does dry very quickly, and this stuff is super permanent. It's not going anywhere. So there's the envelope that we did the stenciling on, and I wanted it to actually look like a stamp. So I cut the number 5 out of the 6x6 paper, and I love that it looks like a stamp. So I'm just adding some thread there, and I'm going to adhere it again with a 3D matte gel. And it doesn't show up too good on camera, but in person it just gives it some nice texture. And this is one of my favorite patterns from the paper pad. I just think it's really pretty with all the different colors in there, and it's not your typical green and red Christmas colors, which I'm not a traditional green and red Christmas person, I would say. I like this color scheme much better. So I'm using one of those teal flowers from the flower bundles, which I had left over. And I broke out the Walden Free flowers here, the blue and white ones, just because they looked perfect. They just really matched the colors in the paper perfectly, and I really like the way it looked. So that's it for that one pretty much. Remember, the wax seal is going to go on the front of all of them. I don't know if I ended up showing that in the end or not, but it really made each one look really pretty. So on the top of this ornament, I wanted to do the jute there, so I'm just wrapping it around and tying it just so it looks like a real ornament and gives a little bit more texture on there. So as I wrap it, I'll tie a couple of times, and then I just will add 3D matte gel like right here just to make sure it's going to stay in place. And what I love about the matte gel is that it does dry clear. You can't see any of that. It's not going to be all white. when it's done. And then I added a doily on the back to even cover that up, and then I could write my message on top of that much easier. So I got some of my scrap pieces from my die cuts. I keep them all in a little section, and this one had been foiled with the Christian Adolf foil, and I just used it, scrunched it up, and I grabbed a Tatiana flower. It was my very last one, I believe, and I just found it in my little scrap bin. It's really fun to go through your scrap bin sometimes on a project and just see what you have in there and what you can use instead of opening up a new pack. So that one had already been alcohol inked in the center and everything, so it's perfect. So those are the stamps that go with the collection, and they're little, that's a little snowflake, and I'm just randomly stamping it, not pushing too hard, and just adding a few snowflakes. And that is it for that ornament. Now I have a reindeer here, and I'm using the bubblegum cording that is from Prima, and I love this stuff. It's really nice. I usually make my dream catchers with it, but I wanted to tie it and then wrap it around the antlers. I've seen some very boho Christmas embellishments this year, and one of them that I saw was a set of antlers that was wrapped with some really pretty cording. So I wanted to do that here, and that's what I'm doing. I'm just kind of mimicking what I saw, and I do it on the other deer too. I have 2 deer in there, and I did it on the other one too with a different kind of jute. It was more like the traditional brown and red, and I really like the look that it gave it. So just wrapping it around, and I'll kind of go down and wrap another section in a minute. And again, once I ran out, I just used the 3D matte gel to hold it, and it really held it just pretty quickly, which I was very, very happy about. I didn't have to sit there and keep my fingers on it. It just grabbed it immediately. So I'm going to make this one number 15, and I'm just using some more of those stamps from the coordinating stamp collection, and it's just like a holly leaves with the berries, and I'm just adding it there because I wanted to put a flower, kind of like a flower was on the reindeer's ear. So you'll see me put the number 15 up a little bit too high, but I can move it down. It takes a little while for the 3D matte gel to dry, so you don't have to worry about not being able to move anything. And then I'm just adding a wild and free flower there right on top of it in the corner to be on the beautiful little reindeer's ear. And that is it for that one, and I'll write my little message on the back. I broke out my IOD decor stamps. The Alpha 2 are the ones I'm using, and I'm just using the numbers. And I use those on quite a few of the envelopes and stuff, and this was day 17. So I used it in the journaling card I included and on the outside as well. And I just love the font of these numbers, and that Alpha stamp set is my favorite by IOD. I love it. So I'm tucking that in there, and that's another coordinating stamp that goes with the Sweet Peppermint collection, and it matches exactly to the black and white paper that's in the collection itself. It's like the same exact print, which I love, and I'll use that on the box that's, or the tray that's going to hold all of them in as well. So I'm just randomly pushing it in there, not trying to get a square or rectangular shape, just I want just randomness on there. I had some leftover bits from another project of die cut pieces from the Flower 2 metal dies, which I love. They're so pretty and so delicate. So I'm using that there, and I'm going to just add some extra texture and dimension by using that. And you'll see me use that planner glue pen a lot because it's just great for adhering paper to paper or anything lightweight. So adding the number 17 right there in the corner. I tend to gravitate toward the right hand side and the upper part, I guess because I'm used to getting envelopes with stamps over there. So that was it for there, all of my envelopes that I showed anyway, and now I'm showing you what I'm doing to the base of my project. And I covered it with a couple coats of the chalkboard paint, and now I'm just sanding off some of the excess, and I have a little, almost like a little candlestick, a little holder there that the little box is going to stand on. So I'm just sanding it until I get the effect I like, and I'm going to take that same stamp that goes with the collection, and I'm just going to randomly stamp all the way around. And it's hard to see on camera or on video, but it really, when I sanded it, it really kind of just gave it this really nice shabby chic look and not so perfectly painted, which I really liked. Just roughed it up a little bit, made it look a little bit more rustic, a little bit more vintage. So I'm just kind of going all the way around with that. And I wanted to get the inside as well and not neglect the sides of the box. So I'm going all the way around the inside as well. And again, I'm using Stays-On ink just so, you know, it doesn't rub off or come off or run in case it gets wet. I'm trying to be prepared and use a nice heavy duty. Okay, so I've got my last little piece of the mason jar labels there, and I'm adding the Be Merry on top of it, and that is from the ephemera pack. I used quite a few pieces out of the ephemera pack and the chipboard and more pack. I may not have shown them all on camera, but they are all in there, and you can probably see it in the photos. So I wanted it just to say Be Merry, and I realized when I put the label on there, it covered up the bell on that stamp, which I really like to show, so I went ahead and stamped that again in the left corner. And now I'm going to add my little label, which you'll see me pull off in just a second because I'm going to add some more of those snowflake mechanicals on there, and I kind of tuck one under there. So adhering the base with the 3D matte gel, and I centered it, and I didn't give it enough time before I started trying to adhere my snowflakes, so I needed them to sit. They can't, obviously they're going to slide down if I would have just, you know, put them there like that. So I had to kind of put it that way, and as you'll see, it's kind of funny. The base just kind of starts sliding down, and I didn't even notice until I was done. But I fixed it, so it is centered, and it is okay. But these snowflakes are so pretty and so delicate, and I just absolutely love them, and I'm so glad I finally got to use them and grab them out of my stash. They're just beautiful. And they have brads on them as well, so you can hear. So I'm showing you now just 1, 2, going through really quickly, showing you a flip through of most of the ones I did. You can see I just stamped on some of them. Others are more elaborate, but that is the bulk of what I did right there. I hope you guys like my tutorial. I hope you guys are going to have a wonderful upcoming Thanksgiving, and I encourage you to make a little advent calendar for someone you love, and it's a really good little present to give someone and let them know you love them, you're thinking about them, especially if you have kids. So here are the photos. I hope you all enjoyed it and have a beautiful day. Bye.